So, congratulations on your book, His Own Way.
Yes, it's getting a little bit of excitement. Yeah, there's a little bit of hype around it. I was on Telemundo, I was on the BBC. I'm doing a few interviews, none more important than this one. But and I'm honest, I love every interview. I'm so looking forward to this one. Speaking with you over the topic, especially today, because today is in the United States. April is Autism Awareness Month.
That's right.
But today, April 6th, today is World Autism Day.
Oh, is it? I am aware of the Autism Month. I was not aware of
April 6th today is World Autism Day. So speaking to you on World Autism Day is the greatest interview so far. I mean, forever until the next interview. You're only going to compete with anybody else I talk to, next year on April 6th.
Well, that's excellent news. Excellent news. So let's talk about this book here, which I actually did read.
Good.
So this is a self-published book through your publishing company. Was it Dad's Publishing?
Self-publishing would refer to publishing only books that I'm doing. The Dad's Publishing, my business partner and I, because of the quantity of books that I've already written, we have over 30. I've written over 30. This is we launched December 22nd. This is the fourth book. The second book so far this year. We have 5 more books coming out this year and releases every month and a half, 2 months through 2025. But we want to sign up. Absolutely want to sign up other authors that fill the criteria of what we're looking for and the type of message that we're trying to get out. So in regards to self-publishing, it typically refers to somebody who has written a book and they're just trying to sell that one book, but with a library of books and looking at signing up other individuals. More publishing, I guess, to differentiate between doing the self. I turned down a lot of other publishers, a lot of agents, literary agents that wanted to represent me. And from them, you go to, publishing houses. I turned those down, many of them, only because being Latino, I was born in Madrid and my mother's from Argentina. My last name, because my father is unpronounceable, I mispronounced it every day of my life. I have to speak to my Swedish family to figure out how it is. Only in Spanish is it, spoken correctly, Liden, but in English, I don't even know how to pronounce it. But having Latino and being told what I can and cannot do throughout my life, what I can and cannot accomplish throughout my life, simply wanted to say, you know what, the limits that I have with regards to my accomplishments are in my head. And anybody who tells me that I can't do something, well, he's telling me what they themselves are not capable of accomplishing. So when it was an option of, having books that were strong enough for publishing houses and agencies to want to represent me, I said, good, thank you for letting me know my books are good enough for the market. I'm going to do my own thing, have a couple of Latinos behind the scenes, which is absolutely a necessity, which is why coming down over to Latino Review Media was something I was very excited to do, to spread the message, not only about the book and the actual aspect of what the book is about, but, as Latinos, we can do whatever the heck we want to do, with the only limitations being only what we choose to, how we choose to limit ourselves.
Absolutely. So tell me about the themes or the type of subjects that Dad's Publishing go after.
Let's see. On December 22nd, we released with The Greatest Christmas Ever. It's a book about they're all told from the children's point of view. All books are told from the child's point of view. Greatest Christmas Ever is Christmas 1 year apart. Last year, father had a job, had all the money, and Christmas was about how many presents am I getting? 1 year later, he's lost his job. They're in a homeless shelter and they have nothing. They don't have the Christmas dinner. It's told in flashbacks and 1 year apart, where the illustrations are there, but they're, the meal is there, but it's not there. The guy that I work with, I do all the writing. I write all the books and then I storyboard all the illustrations. Then I give them to my illustrator, a guy named Francesco Razzini, who's just this brilliant guy who's able to see the images that I have in my head that I attempt to draw, that I attempt to storyboard, but then he breaks them to a reality. So it's the food is there, but it's not there because he's like, okay, we're all a bit thinner. We don't have anything. We can't run around here. We can't run around that as a rule. But he finds that this year he's able to spend the time with his family. They can only give of themselves. And in doing so, the true meaning of Christmas comes through, and it becomes the greatest Christmas ever. They give of our love. We give of our love. We give of each other, and spend the whole day with one another. To quote the book. And for that reason, it becomes the greatest Christmas ever. The next book that we released is Little Itty Bitty's First Day, which is the first in. Right now, there are 17 books in that series. It was a book written about my daughter. She was the inspiration for that book. I'm 6'5.5". And when my daughter was barely able to lift her head, I got down to the ground from her point of view and looked around from her point of view. And the table was only 4 legs holding something up, and the chair, the same thing. It's really interesting. You should try it sometime. Couches make no sense from down there. And, looking back to my childhood, this incredibly violent, horrible childhood that I had, being sent to the hospital many times. All the books are semi-autobiographical, and with my daughter at that point, when I was on the ground and looking things from her point of view, how does she view things, which is not something that I had for myself, where somebody was looking at where things were coming from, from my point of view. And I thought, wow, the world is different from her point of view. So I wrote Little Itty Bitty's First Day. It was the day that Little Itty Bitty was born, and everything is weird and doesn't make sense. One of the things, one of the factors with all the books is I remember going to films with my children when they were younger. I still go, well, not because of the pandemic, but I'm still forced to watch movies with my son. That Zack Snyder Justice League, he calls it Jack Snyder's Justice League. I call it the 4-hour and 2-minute film. Wow. Couldn't have been any shorter, could it? I read the Bible twice while watching that film. It was a long one, but going to films, the movies back in the good old days were great for kids, but they were painful for parents. And the filmmakers started realizing that the creation of films in the cartoons for the kids, if we put some jokes in for the parents would love to come back. I'm not sure if you've seen the movie Shrek recently. As an adult, it's got some adult humor. The kids will not understand. The kids will not get. So Little Itty Bitty's First Day, on one note, it's, a baby, it's sweet. All these books could be, for children, for babies, they're written, there are 2 lines of text per page, and the illustration shows exactly what the text is. So even if somebody doesn't know how to doesn't understand the English language, initially I was doing that for, children who don't know how to speak English yet, don't understand the language yet, that through the illustrations, they can understand the beginning to the end of the book completely. You don't actually need to read the book. It works also for individuals, Spanish speaking, or from any other country that just looks at the illustrations from beginning into end and can actually understand them. I mean, hopping forward to His Own Way, it starts off with my brother's autistic. It really is quite funny with, a little girl pointing at a picture, and you see on the picture on the wall, the photo on the wall is mom, dad, her, and then the fourth person is laying down. And I did all the storyboards, so I'll take credit for all the humor and the insanity of what life actually was. He opens and closes doors all day and hops around like a bunny. So, then it's, the little boy that's opening, closing doors all day and hopping around like a bunny. So the first illustration, you're looking at a little girl pointing to a picture where one of them is laying down and she's got a smile on her face. Obviously, she's, told from a 5-year-old's point of view, how she saw autism. Going to the next illustration with, where he's opening, closing doors all day, then it's, you get to understand the gist, at the very least the gist, but of course you get to understand the story. So Little Itty Bitty's First Day, I immediately, when I was down there on the ground with her and looking around, I thought, oh my gosh, this is everything from her point of view. So I ran to my office and typed and wrote out the book. It took about 10 minutes. That's because I'm not really good at typing. I still don't know how to type. Which is why you won't find many Qs, because I can never find the letter Q on the keyboard. So I stay away from the letter Q. Instead of saying quit, I just say immediately stop doing something. I'll use a couple extra words because the letter Qs drive, he moves very fast. Forget quickly. That's not happening. For a child, it's, Little Itty Bitty's First Day is an aspect of, understanding and seeing, that it's tomorrow's going to get better. It's like, oh, this is so sweet. The baby sees the dog and the cat, and they look at the baby like they want to eat her, eat Itty Bitty. I'm not sure if itty bitty's a boy or a girl. I refer to itty bitty as a girl, but because of my daughter, but it's itty bitty is me as well. So all babies all look the same. So by the end of the story, itty bitty looks at it and says, tomorrow will be different. Hopefully tomorrow is different. I'll grow and tomorrow will be better. It's about optimism. So on a deeper level for the adults reading the books, it's, oh my gosh, when it comes to, homelessness, the greatest Christmas ever, it's an aspect of, what children understand. Because we all assume that children are dumb because they're short. But in the reality, they understand everything that's going on. When my son was, when my daughter, who's 18 months older than her brother, was 10 years old, I explained to her that her brother's autistic. I said, your brother's autistic. She said, what's that? And I said, well, being age appropriate means that he's different. And she looks at me and she's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, oh, God, all the stress and panic that I was having to explain that her brother is different. She already knew this from the beginning of time. The next book that came out is Little Itty Bitty's Fly Me to the Moon, came out February 9th. And that's about quarantine. I wrote it during the quarantine. That's the most recent book I wrote. It's, what happens when we put the baby in the crib at night and we go to our room? What happens there? And that's where the basics, the concept of the story. And, Little Itty Bitty is all alone and then is able to get through that experience, get through the evening and make it a beautiful place, because it's about how we look at things, using the imagination to expand and to go to worlds that we need to, wish to, want to. If it's an aspect of being in a pandemic and locked at home, who says, the couch is a couch? Only we do as adults. Children see it as a spaceship or as a, jungle gym. My children, when we were young, they used me as a jungle gym. That's what I was. I'm 6'5.5". I was this great thing to climb on. My wife is short, so, she wasn't, that great to climb on. I hope she doesn't ever watch this interview because she's amazing. She's just short. The next book to come out of His Own Way. This is the second one coming out this year, which on the surface is, autism through a 5-year-old's point of view. When my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, we were desperately not understanding what it meant. Did it mean that he was going to die? Was that a death sentence? Did it mean that for the rest of his life? For anybody who's listening, please understand, autism is not a death sentence. It's absolutely not a death sentence. It just simply means they're going to be different. And with medically speaking, nobody knows what the cure is. There is no, we think, or where did it come from? We think. And I've done a lot of research. We think is all they have. So instead of just looking at individuals, with autism and if we have children with a disability instead of with autism, I'll just go to autism. That's the, instead of spending my time and energy on I spend my time and energy, because I only get 24 hours in a day. I spend my time and energy on giving love to others and giving love to my family. When my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, my wife and I were completely concerned about him. We kind of neglected our daughter. She's typical, which is the term that's used for children that don't have a disability. So after a year, I went back and I looked at some of the drawings because she loves to draw. And I saw the drawings that she did during that year and they were so sad. And I thought, oh my God, wow, am I a failure as a dad? Wow, I screwed this one up. We're taking our son to therapy 5 days a week. He was physical therapy, the occupational therapy. My gosh, there was more therapy. And, we ignore opening and closing doors all day. I stopped him from opening and closing doors all day. And he cried for 5, 6, 7 hours. Different times that I pulled him away from the door because I didn't want him to hurt himself. Mm-hmm. And finally I said, okay, you know what? This doesn't seem to work. So I let him open and close doors all day, except I had my hand in the door jamb so that he could never hurt himself. So in that illustration where opening and closing doors all day, the only image that I did not put there was me standing there with my hand in the door jamb. I'd catch him. I'd see that he was doing it. That's where the illustration came from that moment. And then of course, running over there and, but always keeping an eye on him. There's other It shows my son was the first person in the state of California to get both a disability plate and disability placard. The plate goes on one car and the placard follows him to every other car, because one of the joys he had in life is running in front of cars and not understanding the consequences, which made it really fun to always be petrified. We were always in a state of panic. We went out. It's he, making sure that he doesn't run out in front of cars. He never got hit, but my gosh, it was just this overprotection, over fear that we had of him. There's one illustration that it kind of shows that, at the park when the sister is finally on a swing and she's finally able to swing on that, and the parents are running after him because he's hopping away, and he didn't walk, he hopped. He's hopping away. And remembering those illustrations after a year, I came to realize, wow, did I make that mistake? So, from then on, it was a different game plan. Instead of everybody going together, we split up so my daughter could have some time with dad alone. We'd go to the movies, we'd go to dinner, while my wife is watching our son, or vice versa. My wife would go out with our daughter, do whatever girls do, and paint their nails, or I'm just kidding. They'd go do, go to the movies, go to dinner, go shopping, whatever it is that they were doing. I'd stay home with my son. And by doing that, we came to kind of understand one of the things that we wanted is for our son to meet those milestones in life in the way that they should be met. And he didn't meet any of those milestones in the time that he met, through therapies or anything else. Nothing worked. The doctors still told us initially, he will never look at you. He will never want to hug. Physical contact, forget about that. And he won't eat solid food. And one of the things that they did not take into consideration was the X factor, which was his sister. Mm-hmm. And his sister started to accept him in the way that he did things. There was a level of trust that he had with his sister, because she said, you know what, however you do things is good with me. And because of her, not because of us. Even in the book, I show that the change that happens, the parents are not in there at all. The change that happens in the story is because of that connection that they have with each other, because the parents are completely out of it. We had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
At the age of 11, he started eating solid food. He eats a ridiculous amount of food. He's 16, he's slim, and he eats 3 times larger than, I don't say I have a dad bod, I like to say I have a fat bod. He eats 3-4 times more than the entire family combined, including me. The guy's just, he was diagnosed with severe autism. On the other end of the spectrum, what we call a child with autism is by the person's name, because all autism is different. It's a behavioral thing that is from severe all the way to Asperger's. Asperger's is kind of the high end of autism, which is something that Bill Gates has.
Yeah.
Of course, when your kid has autism, you do all the research to find out, if realizing that if my son had Asperger's, I would have retired by now, because he would have been a little billionaire. But, he got the other side. So, with his success, he started eating solid food at the age of 11. Every morning I give him a hug. And I sing a little song. It's kind of it's good morning to you in the theme of happy birthday, told by a Russian mafioso with an incredible cold. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Good morning, baby. Good morning to you. And I sing it really slowly, and it's much more dramatic. And it's kind of, but I get a 20-second hug in out of that song. So I'm getting him. He thinks it's funny, and I can hug him for 20 seconds, and he feels that level of, I get my hug in, and he's fine with it. If I just hug him for 20 seconds, he'd be like, excuse me, guy, you really. But I sing this stupid song that I sing. That they seem to enjoy it, because I do the same with my daughter, who's 18 now, and she thinks it's dad, so you just kind of accept dad as dad. But he looks at me when I talk to him. I've come to learn and understand, because of my daughter, to accept him doing things in the speed in which he does it. On the surface of the book is about, it's the story of a 5-year-old who has a 3-year-old younger brother with severe autism, and how autism affects the family. Women have the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting. I wish I got this book. That's why I wrote it. I wish I got this book when our son was diagnosed with autism. Your son is autistic, by the way, go pick up this book his own way. I wish I got that book then, so that I'd understand, so I wouldn't have given my daughter such a year of such sadness. It would have moved the family much more quickly towards happiness, because there is no cure. So being happy and content on the journey, that's all we have is the journey. On a deeper level, the book is about accepting other individuals for their own way. There's a division in the country, in the United States. We hate the other side. For some reason, we're supposed to hate the other side. I don't focus on the differences, but that's what's happening right now. We're focusing on each other's differences instead of seeing the commonality we have in our humanity. And if we stop and look at the commonality we have in our humanity, we go, wow, in the journey of life, I move faster than others and I move much slower than others. For some people, they're in my rearview mirror. The other people, I'm in their rearview mirror. What am I supposed to be? Annoyed and angry at people because they're not walking at the same speed as I am? Everybody moves at their own speed. And that's something that I learned. At the age of 10, when I told my daughter, your brother's autistic, she's like, yeah, I know. It's like, I had to learn myself that, if I accept that he's not going to move at my speed, it worked. When my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, it was 1 in 150 children in the United States that had that diagnosis. Today, it's 1 in 54. That's actually from a 2000. Anybody who gives you that number, remember that's from 2016, and the number goes up on a regular basis. I don't know why, probably because more testing. But as of the 2016, it was 1 in 54 in the United States. In Canada, it's 1 in 43. In Australia, it's 1 in 70. In Mexico, and for my Latinos out there, the number is we don't know. And the reason we don't know, which is the reason why I'm so happy to be here, with you on Latino Review Media, is so that I can reach out to my Latinos out there. The machismo factor is the reason why we don't know the number in Mexico. Is it genetic? Is autism genetic? Mm-hmm. Well, gosh, if my son gets tested for autism and, find out that he is autistic, what does that say about me as a man? Creating something that's defective. They're not defective, but that's the ideology that pops in. Gosh, it's my fault. I created something that wasn't perfect. Being a man has nothing to do with that. And that's the reason why not only we're looking at medical care and the therapies in Mexico that are not as readily available as they are in the United States, but just understanding and accepting the fact that, being a man has nothing to do with whether or not you give birth to a child who has autism or a disability or anything. Gosh, I have, friends children that are typical that are, how do you say children are, that are different from my kids? I'm thrilled that I have my kids instead of their kids. Mm-hmm. But if we as men look and see, okay, it doesn't matter where it came from, it's genetic, who cares? Being a man has nothing to do with what you create. It's an aspect of how we respond to things. It's an aspect of how we respond to, okay, my child is having a difficult time. If the therapies aren't out there, take it slowly. Don't ignore the other children. For everybody, don't ignore the other children. Take it slowly. Even if the therapies aren't there, the therapies did not help us at all. We're in the United States. We're in Los Angeles. It's one of the best places to have the kid with autism in the world. Because of everything that's available, it did not help us at all. It was hope, but nothing was successful with our son. What was successful was his sister. Mm-hmm. That was the one that got us through, got us moving forward. He was diagnosed with severe autism. When I have friends that come over, they look at him and go, wow, he doesn't look like he's autistic. It's like, yeah, of course, we've modified and changed our entire life. We look at the problem and we try to fix it. We move things around. We used to be members of Disneyland. We had the annual membership for like 4 years. And they had a pass there, the front of the line pass. He cannot stand behind people in line or he hits them. And, did that since the beginning of time. So they had that pass and we were going to Disneyland. We were stayed members there for 4 years. And then they got rid of the pass, that front of the line pass. And they said, well, the other people are abusing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't been able to go to Disneyland since. I mean, Disneyland, if you have, if you need medical clearance for that, go for it. If you need more idea when somebody shows up, fine. But my goodness, we can't go to Disneyland now. Not that that's not that going to Disney on a regular basis is something to cry about. I can't go to Disneyland every day. Many people have never been, but it's just a clear explanation, an example of things we cannot do. We cannot. I made a reservation at a restaurant. I had to get a private room. It's easier for us. Not that he can't eat with other people, but it was easier. I was looking at a different restaurant. They accepted no reservations. They said, well, it's walk-in. I said, great, have fun. We will not be there. Can't go.
Mm-hmm.
He loves it.
Let me interrupt you real fast.
Please.
Who's the target audience that you're hoping that your children's book is for?
For this book, if we look at the surface, or if we look at the actual, what the book, or the deeper meaning, which I guess would be the book, is for everybody and anybody. We would like to say at Dad's Publishing, my business partner is a dad, I'm a dad. So we're Dad's Publishing. That's not moms do all the work, but we're dads. That's the only reason it's called. And all the books are sold as ebooks through dadspublishing.com on Apple, Amazon, Kobo, and Google. The books that we like to say that the company says is, books they're written for the heart of the family. But what I like to say is that the only prerequisite to pick up one of my books, you only have to meet one prerequisite. At some point in time, you have to have been a child. Who are these books for? Little Itty Bitty's First Day is about seeing that tomorrow's going to get better. Fly Me to the Moon is an acceptance of where we are now. Greatest Christmas Ever is appreciating what we have, not looking at what we don't. His Own Way is an acceptance of other individuals. The next book, My Mommy and Daddy's My Mom, that's coming out May 1st, and then I've got a June 1st, August 1st, September 1st, December 1st, kind of back to backs. That's a book that is a boy talking about being raised in a single parent household. My Mommy and Daddy's My Mom. Who's that one for? For anybody who's had a mom. Just it's a love letter to mom. Thank you, Mom, for anybody's. It's for everybody, and that's what that's what the themes are. Acceptance of other individuals. And how that happens. And the clearest and easiest way for me to be able to tell that story with His Own Way was, how do I give this incredibly large message in a very 39-page book? Simple. Use my son as my son with severe autism as the example of someone who's different. There are people that I've got friends of mine that are typical, men with families, and we run at different paces. It's not very easy to see the differences there, but it was really easy to see the differences in behavior between my daughter and my son, which is why they were which is why I use them as the example to give the story about acceptance of other individuals. You have children, you have a single child, you have only one child, and the child is typical, doesn't have disabilities as a child for them. Yes, let's learn about accepting other people for who they are, because we teach them as children. As adults, we'll start saying, oh, we can start accepting other people for who they are. If they're Latino, if they're at the age of 7, at 3, I moved to Argentina. At 5, I ran to Los Angeles. At the age of 7, in the 2nd grade, in front of the, it was a medium, nice neighborhood, medium upper class raising that childhood that I had. And I was the only Latino there with a Latino name. I had siblings there, but their names are American. And at the age of 7, somebody in spray paint wrote "Sergio's a wetback" in blue spray paint with 3 exclamation marks. And I only had 2 questions. One, what's a wetback? At the age of 7, that's the question that I had. And the other question is, because I learned, what an exclamation mark was, I was wondering why they had to be so loud about it. Nobody ever took it down. It was just through time that it finally went away. The aspect of acceptance of other people, if we learn that as children, then as adults, we become more open to other individuals and give more love to other individuals. And if you're just a single adult, it's for you as well, because of the aspect of learning to accept and love other people. And I'll give you the reason why it's so important, because when my wife takes off with, the kids, I'm not always there to protect them. She'll take off today, with both kids or just with my daughter, just with my son. I want to make sure she's safe. If I spread hatred, anger, and deception, disgust to those that I communicate with, wow, that's kind of the message that I'm saying works. And what is the likelihood that my wife is going to get hurt? My kids are going to get hurt because I'm not there to protect them 24/7. Can I protect them? Yeah, I'm a big guy. I mean, I'm 6'5.5", but I'm not there all the time. If it's spread, I spread love, hope, connection, humanity. I have less fear that that something's going to happen to my wife and children. So if you're an adult and you have no children, is this book for you? Yeah, absolutely. So even though they're children's books, as long as you were a child, because children accept each other. period. There's no level of discrimination regardless of behavior. I mean, in this story, the annoyance that the girl had with having a brother who was autistic had nothing to do with his behavior.
Mhm.
It only had to do with the way that how she felt neglected by the parents.
Yeah.
She had no problem with the fact that her brother was autistic and that, she thought it was funny. He was in a level of entertainment. The entertainment ended at the point that she started feeling neglected. It's like, okay, he's a funny guy. He's a funny kid. How about me? How about looking my direction? So if we come to accept other individuals as adults, if we forgot what it was like to be a kid, look at it as a kid. My daughter, she reads the books before I give them to anybody. She's my editor, so to speak. And when I wrote this book and I finished this book, had the illustrations, everything was done, ready to go out, I showed it to my daughter. And if she said, depending on what she said, if she gave it said no, I shut the book down. And when I gave it to her, she said, Dad, how did you know that's what I was going through? And I was like, I wrote the book back in 2008. The illustrations came much later. And the storyboards came a few years later, and Francesco put his touches to it in the last year. Now that we've moved the company forward with the pandemic and just moving at its incredible speed now. But she came back and said, Dad, how did you know that's what I was going through? It just killed me. I was like, wow, because that's how I would have felt when I saw what she was going through. I thought, wow, that's how I felt when I was a kid. I came from a violent childhood. I got sober at the age of 17. I've been sober for 30 years. A woman named Ellen accepted me for who I was at a group home that I was at when I was 16 years old. I went back at 17. And she accepted me before I knew how to accept myself, loved me before I could love myself, knew how to love myself. And at that point, the only way to pass it, I couldn't say thank you to her for saving my life. She took me to my first AA meeting. I could never say thank you big enough to say thank you for giving me my life. So all I could do is just pass it forward, remember what it was like at that time so that I don't make the same mistakes. If I do make a mistake, my children will definitely go to therapy, but they're not going to go to therapy because Dad did the same things that his parents did to him. Mm-hmm. It'll be for brand new reasons. I've only touched my kids to hug them out of love. I've never spanked my kids. I mean, if beating a kid, worked, I'd be God, and I'm not God. The treatment of my children is simply, I talk to them all the time. The prefrontal cortex is not developed till the age of 25, and that deals with connections with other individuals, understanding consequences, understanding, and if that doesn't happen till the age of 25, children, I've come to understand and accept the fact that children don't act up. They react up. They're very smart. They very much connect to everything. So these books are for children as well that are going through things. I've counseled people, in my life. I've counseled, inmates in the LA County jail system to lower the recidivism rate, men and women in the different jails in LA, Men's Central Twin Towers in downtown, CRDF Women's Jail in Linwood, Wayside Supermax up at Santa Clarita. For anybody who doesn't know Santa Clarita, think Magic Mountain. Then I went up to, prison, then I started counseling sheriffs, who are the ones that run the jails. They're 5 times a heart attack, 5 times more likely to get a heart attack than the regular public because of the stress and strains of their jobs. Mm-hmm. Friends that are sheriffs that have had heart attacks, they made it, but I counseled them because they could not take the work home with them and talk to their, to their other half about, what kind of day it was inside LA County jail. Then from there, I expanded and started talking to school shooters, communicating with them around the world, and going to different prisons to find out why they did what they did. Were they born or created? And it's like, oh, wow, they were created. It's a level of incredible strain, and that they felt that was the only way that they could do it. Now I'm working with men and trying to get 2 guys off death row, one in Texas, one in Alabama. I seem to keep raising the bar, but I pass it forward because I know that every single one of these individuals, if they had an Ellen in their life, Ellen Bradley was the one in my life at 16 and 17. She's my oldest. Well, let me say that so that, when she's listening to this, she won't think that I'm calling her old. She's the person I've known the longest and had the longest continuous friendship with her. I was 16 at the time. I've been for 32 years. I'm 48. She's 12 years older than I am. So I'm not going to tell you her age, but because I know what that's going to turn into. Did you just tell everybody on air that I'm 60 years old? But I cannot. I pass it forward. and passing it forward with individuals that are incarcerated, passing it forward with kids in juvenile halls, kids at group homes that I work with as well. And that stuff I do voluntary. All that stuff that I'm talking about is voluntary.
Yeah.
Going around the country, that's all voluntary. That's from me to them as a way of saying, paying it forward because, for what Ellen did for me. And with these books, it's paying it forward and, making life just a little bit easier. And for everybody who's reading these things, who's it for? Everyone, as long as you were a child and getting the truth, because that's, kind of what we get, from children is truth and understanding, if you have kids and they're acting up, they're not acting up. They're incapable to act up. Their brain is not developed enough to act up. They are reacting up to something that's going on. And one of the things I do with my kids today, there's no longer is there a period of a year that goes by that I say, oops, I should have caught that one. No, in 24 hours, I know if there's something different. I communicate with my children and actually pay attention. Are they eating too much? Are they not eating enough? Are they sleeping too much? Are they sleeping, are they sleeping too much or too little? Eating too much or too little? Are they getting angry? And if they are, I've only talked to my children when they've misbehaved. I've never spanked them. Spanking doesn't work. If it did, I would have turned out a bit different. I would be this amazing individual. But it doesn't work. So I talk to them. So they'll definitely go to therapy and say, gosh, my dad would just talk to us forever. I spent most of my childhood, listening to my dad, talk to us about, it's like, Dad, please help me. I have this concept of talking that, I now get PTSD when people talk to me. I just talk to them. And come to accept the way that they do things in their own way. And everybody does things in their own way. And when I look at it like that, which is what the message of this book is, who is this book for? The question is, who can benefit from this book? Mm-hmm. The children, with everybody that I've counseled in all facets, from juveniles to cops to death row inmates. One of the things that every one of these people have felt, there's been this common thread. Everybody has felt alone in their plight. Everybody has felt I'm the only one that's going through this. And I thought, wow, if everybody feels they're alone in what it is that they're going through, are they actually alone, or are they just doing what everybody else is doing? It's like a common thread. If that's the common thread, everybody's doing the exact same thing. If you're going through a problem, you feel you're alone in your plight, you're doing it correctly. Then you're good to understand that you're not. And that's what these books are. They're an inexpensive form of therapy in order to help understand, what, I'm not in this alone. If you don't have the fortune to speak out, to talk to somebody, one of the things with Ellen is that I opened my arms and allowed myself, I had my guard up, but with Ellen, I opened my arms and said, yes, I'll accept the love and compassion and the until I can, love myself. But I didn't have my arms guarded. And that level of, which was in the book, where it's this level of trust, with my life, with my children, it's this level of trust. And obviously in the book as well, this level of trust, because you saw that in the book, the parents are all over the child with, the sibling with autism. And his connection with his sister has nothing to do with her running all over him because of his autism. It's, treating him like a normal brother, him stealing her toys, him playing with her toys. One of the fun things with the book is if you look at the, I put a couple of, what are they called? Easter eggs. It was just Easter, so I'll give this one to you. If you look at her bed, I haven't told anybody else this. I'll give it to you because we just had Easter and World Autism Day. The illustration of the bed that shows with stuff on the bed, and the other one is the bed that's empty. If you read what it says on the bed, nobody's going to catch this because I did it kind of deliberately. If you read what's on the bed, nobody will ever read it. It says little itty bitty. That little itty bitty series I have, let's see, May 1st is my mom and dad is my mom. June 1st for the beginning of summer. May 1st is because of Mother's Day, May 9th. June 1st is little itty bitty's flowers at my knees for the beginning of summer. And that's an aspect of looking around and seeing the beauty that there is in this world. It's just changing our perspective. That's all that book is about. August 1st for the beginning of school is little itty bitty's What Will I Be? we always ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up, instead of what type of person do you want to be?
Hmm.
What we do with our career is irrelevant, but if we're jerks, you're a jerk. I don't care what kind of job you have. If you're a sweet person, I don't care what kind of job you have. If you're a sweet person, I want to be friends with you. If you're a great, compassionate, loving, sweet person, that's what Will I Be is about for August 1st. September 1st, after a month in school, is Little Itty Bitty's The Bully. It talks about bullying from Little Itty Bitty's point of view. And then that's the last Itty Bitty book for this year. And then, of course, in December 1st, we have If There Was a God, coming out for Christmas. But on this book, His Own Way, you'll see that on the bed, it says Little Itty Bitty. Oh, in the Little Itty Bitty series, Little Itty Bitty never changes. Little Itty Bitty's always a little bitty baby. For His Own Way, you'll see that it says Little Itty Bitty, which means now we see what happened to Itty Bitty 5 years later. So nobody will ever catch that this is Itty Bitty. This is Itty Bitty, and the parents call her Little Itty Bitty. I used to call my daughter. I still call my daughter Itty Bitty. And one of the other thing that nobody will ever see, which is another Easter egg besides the Little Itty Bitty that's on the bed, is if you look at the toys, you'll see the numbers 108 or 322. 108, October 8th, is my son's birthday, and 322, my daughter's birthday, March 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
And something that for everywhere forward, anytime there's a potential for a number like a license plate, it'll always say 322 or 10 or 108. The Giants wear hats in Flowers at My Knees, and their hats say LIB. The last book, Fly Me to the Moon, Little Bitty's Fly Me to the Moon. Little Bitty flies around with a kite, and on the kite says LIB. So I put all these little Easter eggs. I'm not giving to anybody else, but just for autism, for World Autism Day, I'll give out the Easter eggs, so people can look for those. But yeah, the books are for everybody. It's don't look at the surface of it, because that's what I had to do. That's what my appreciation, for filmmakers who are doing the cartoons. I can only go see, how many sequels of How to Train Your Dragon can I go see if they're not putting jokes in there for me, or for mom. I think they're like at part 4 or 5 and Shrek 7, and there's only so many of these, but putting the jokes in, and for this one is putting the themes in for adults, not the jokes, but they're the themes that are there for the adults, so that they're appropriate for everybody. And I just use the message that I have that I want to convey is never really what you're seeing on paper, because what you're seeing on paper is a 5-year-old girl who's talking about living in a family with a 3-year-old younger brother who's autistic. That's not what the book is about. That's the way I did it. But it's an aspect of acceptance and understanding other people move in their own way. Like you move in your own way, I move in my own way. We're individuals like that. But if we're all individuals, then aren't we all kind of the same? Because everybody's an individual. That means we're all kind of this. That means that we're all the same. Just looking at the commonalities with regards to each other. And that's what the book is about. And that's who the book is for.
What was your experience like growing up with your brother? Was it a lot different from your children?
Wow. How depressing can we make this interview? I had 2 brothers and a sister. Growing up with them is, my children are growing up together. They do things together. Mm-hmm. Their memories of, when they were younger, they're 16 and 18. The memories my daughter has of being younger, she remembers going to Disneyland with her brother and doing things with her brother, and the connection and love that they have for each other. I didn't have that. I have 2 brothers and a sister. Older brother, younger brother, 2 years, and then a sister between me and my older brother. So I'm, a middle child. It's not the experience that I had, unfortunately. I had the experience of, moving to this country at the age of 5, and my mother being, not speaking the language, not having any of the friends out here. She just felt completely isolated. So she turned to drinking. I believe alcohol is genetic. That's the way it was for myself. If somebody, if it wasn't genetic in your family and you feel you're an alcoholic, go get sober. Not drinking is a good thing, to the excesses, where it starts demolishing and destroying your life. And then you feel, wow, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and drink some more. Then you destroy your family. You're like, yeah, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to go drink some more. If you're doing that, I don't care if it's genetic or not. It's probably a good idea to stop. So my mother would drink, and she was an incredibly violent drunk. And I made sure to take it for my siblings. The beatings I took for my siblings. The first time I drank was at the age of 6. It was January 1980. When 1980 was, right before I turned 7. I turned 7 in February. Everybody raised the glass. And, the champagne, my father had a lot of people over at the house, about 150 people. They all raised the glass. They all kissed and they hugged, and everybody had smiles on their face. And I thought, wow, that's where happiness is. So I went around at the age of 6 and drank everybody's champagne down, and blacked out. At the age of 6, I did not understand what the word suicide meant. But at the age of 6 is when I wanted to disappear. At the age of 7, I understood what the word suicide was. I understood what the word suicide meant before I understood what the word wetback meant, before I understood that definition. So at the age of 7 I wanted suicide. I needed to, stop this pain, these daily torture. At the age of 8 was when I first attempted suicide, tried to get hit by a car. I mean, I've tried, with regards to, then I've tried suicide, hanging myself, overdosing on pills, drinking to death, drowning. I mentioned hanging. Yeah, everything that I can think of. If we had a gun, I would have pulled the trigger without question. But I was just not good at suicide. And what they say, if you're not, if you don't succeed the first time, just kidding. Try again. But I was just not good at it. My biggest failure I felt in my childhood was my inability to take my own life. For that reason, when it's an aspect of growing up with, at the age of 12, I went to my first psychiatric hospital for wanting to kill myself. I went through 5 psychiatric hospitals between 12 and 17, 2 group homes, until I met Ellen at the age of 16 at the first time I went to the group home. And then when I went back at the age of 17 to 18, I got emancipated from there, which means you're 18, leave. A place called Penny Lane Centers. This amazing place, she was there and she took me to my first AA meeting. So with regards to growing up with, I'm not really, my son is 16, and I thought, wow, for his 16th birthday, he turned 16 October 8th. And I said, well, and I just look back in my life and go, wow, where was I? Oh yeah, I remember. When I turned 16, I was in a mental hospital. I turned 16 at a mental hospital. What was I doing at 15? Oh God, all these. Just looking back at what I was going through at that time, and then what they're going through, I was like, because I felt bad that he's turning 16 during the pandemic. Want to do something special for him. And then I look back at my life and I was like, yes, I have to do something special and amazing for him, because I need to compensate for what I kind of wanted myself. So we were able to go see this movie Tenet, driving all the way to Orange County. It was the next day. They actually shut down the theater chain, but we were the only people, the 4 of us, at an IMAX theater. It's like the last time a movie, that before they shut down that movie theater. And so growing up with, I can say I was breathing the same air, but growing up with, regarding looking back at what memories do I have with my siblings? None. I mean, as soon as I discovered alcohol at 6, my whole objective was disappearing, to get away from that life. I don't remember 10th grade. I was in a blackout the whole time during 10th grade. A lot of my childhood is, secondhand stories of other individuals telling me what happened, what took place. I don't really remember a bit, quite a bit of it, especially right before I got sober at the age of 17. I don't remember much of my teenage years if I was not locked up. If I was not in a group home or locked up in a psychiatric hospital, I really don't remember much. And, so growing up with so these stories, does my childhood have anything to do with these stories? Of course it does. I'm absolutely impacted by this childhood I had, whereas many of my friends from back then, in group homes, in the group home are, ended up dead or, going to prison at some point in their life, that had the same tragic childhood that I did, because mine wasn't the My last therapist said, Sergio, yours is, before our first meeting, she said, I read your file. Yours is one of the worst cases of child abuse in California history. So, but for me, it was normal. I didn't understand what it meant. You mean when your parent puts their arm up, it doesn't come down and smash you, upside the head? For me, that was normal. So it didn't make sense for a hand not to come down and smash me upside the head. For them not to put me in the hospital, not including my thumbs. I've broken all 8 of my fingers, most of them twice, both of my wrists and my right arm, because, my mom liked to drink. I can't wear a wedding ring because before my finger was healed, she broke it again. So now my index finger is a little bit crooked. So I can't fit a wedding ring in my finger. If I make it wide enough to actually fit all the way to the bottom, it's just going to be too loose and it'll fall off. Mm-hmm. So the effects of, I have an aspect. I look at what gratitude is an incredibly big thing in my life. What do I have? Not what do I not have? I have amazing friends. I have this beautiful life. I have children that I love. I've got this amazing wife that I love. We've been together 29 years. Ellen came into my life. My wife came into my life. Later, I was told it comes in groups of 3s. Then my first child came into my life, a little girl. Made me grow to an incredible degree. It's this level of beauty that I was able to see that women did for me. It's funny. One woman just, put me in the hospital and took 3 others, to save my life. It's an aspect of appreciation for what I went through, because it made me the person that I became, and then the individual that I am today. The topics in my bio, I said, yeah, put it all out there. Talk about everything and anything you want, because I know other people are going through it. I know other people are, have dealt with, some form of abuse, that they're allowing that to eat at them. They're allowing that to, they're still living at that moment of the abuse. I don't, and because they're living that moment of abuse and pain and terror that they had as a child, they're using, relationships or alcohol or drugs or some other substance, or using, to mask it and make it go away. And it doesn't work. It absolutely doesn't work doing that. I have friends that went through the same tragic childhood that ended up dead or have gone to prison. The important thing is for myself, and the reason that I went through that and came out the other side, is because it took a lot of hard work. Sometimes it's 1 second at a time, a minute at a time, or a day at a time, that I must live my life. Come to understand, something like fear. I don't allow fear to control my life. You see, fear is an acronym. When false events appear real, people usually F everything and run until they face everything and recover. Mm-hmm. I come to understand and accept what it is that I can control. So I don't have the stress and anxiety over that type of stuff. I do not have control over people, places, and things. I do have total control over my response to other people, places, and things. Understanding that, wow, what stress do I have in my life? I remember I was working with Marines with PTSD at the beginning of 2016. It was not in California, it was in a different state. In the month of January, there was a Marine PTSD who put a gun to my chest. 3 weeks later, and in a different state, I heard about a Marine that had PTSD, that was having a really tough time, and he put a gun to my ribs. I don't recommend counseling their individuals when they have weapons. Definitely don't recommend that one. That was a little bit stressful. Yeah. But that was not as stressful, as having to wake up every single day as a child and know what my day was going to be like. Know that at some point during the day, some part of my body was going to either turn blue, black or blue, that there might be blood, or that something might break, from my body. It was a guarantee that at least something would turn a different color. At least I'd get, smacked. That was a guarantee. That was stressful. That was freaking horrific. So dealing with, these 2 guys, who, put guns to that was less stressful, and my life today, I don't have guns. I know that when I go to sleep, it probably get a bruise, but this time it's because I'm clumsy. I'm clumsy as all hell. People ask me if I play basketball because I'm so tall. I'm not really good at dribbling. I'm not really good at any sports. I probably should stay away from any form of balls because I'm just I mean, really not good at any of that stuff. But I'm not afraid to wake up. It's like, wow, I know what fear is of waking up, of being conscious. I totally, I went through, 10 years of that. Every day for 10 years, unless I was in a psychiatric, from the ages of 5 to 17. So I went through that 12 years, unless I was in a psychiatric hospital or in a group home. I totally got that. I totally, was afraid, for those 12 years.
Yeah.
But, so today it's this level of gratitude for what I have. I put things in perspective, and, and then it's like, wow. Then I write about it in the form of children's books, the easiest form of communication, 2 lines per page. It's 38 pages that have text. And the last page for all the books, the last page, the page that has the end is always a little extra, that I give. You know what I'm talking about regarding 39, that little extra that happens there that kind of ends the story on the note. But that's 38 times 2, that's 70, 38 times 2, that's 76 lines of text. In 76 lines of text, I was able to, everybody can read, 76 lines of text. It's not a big deal. 38 times 2 lines of text per page times is 76 lines. It's short enough for anybody to look at it and go, oh, okay, got it. I get it. It's easy enough for me to, I don't have to go into this big book. I don't have to go to the chapter. No, it's like, whatever prescription it is that you're looking for, you're having a hard time today, pick up Little Bitty's First Day. You're locked in the pandemic and you're having a really tough time because everything is locked down. You can't see people. Great. Go pick up Little Itty Bitty's Fly Me to the Moon. Economic insecurity. And how is that affecting your family? And how do your children see you as the loser that you feel you are because you don't have the finances? Go pick up The Greatest Christmas Ever. You'll be like, oh, okay, this is the reality. The false events appearing real is that my children are going to look less on me because of my financial strain. That's only in your head until you face everything and recover and you go, oh, that's not the truth. My children only want my love and my acceptance, like we all do. You're having a tough time. You're not being accepted because you're different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, pick up his own way. And by the way, we're all different. You have a child who has a disability, get it for their sibling. This book is not for my son. It's absolutely not for my son who's autistic. He's severely autistic. He's like good, but I'm not expecting him to, this book was not written for him. It's written for the others who, not only feel alone. For parents, you have children. If they're both typical and neither of them have the disability, pick up the book because it's for you. Because to understand and see things from your kid's perspective. And because my childhood was so extremely violent, not just sort of, incredibly violent and torturous, and it was so to that extreme, it's definitely left an imprint in my head, which is something I will never forget. When's the last time, did you get spankings? Yeah, I might have gotten a spanking. I'm sure I did. I'm sure I deserved it. I've talked to friends, that's their response. For me, I so remember even looking at my butt turning different colors. I remember getting punched in the face at the dinner table by my mother, and the blood from my nose, dripping onto my food. I remember, holding my fork differently, holding it too close to not holding my fork correctly. And, and having, my father putting my food in the dog bowl and, making me eat without using my hands like a dog, because if I can't hold my fork correctly, what's the use of having a plate? That stuff was so ingrained in my head, and those levels of trauma and torture and embarrassing me in front of are so there. I will never forget those. Regardless of how old I am, I can still look at things through the children's point of view, because, and that's evident through my daughter saying, wow, Dad, how did you know this is what I was going through? It's because I will never forget what I went through. And the reason we become crappy parents It's because we forgot what we went through. That it wasn't easy when we were kids. The reason our kids misbehave and are nuts is because we forgot what it was like to be a kid, and we're not taking care of their needs. HALT is an acronym everybody should use: hunger, anger, lonely, and tired. Those four will drive you to, make you insane. If you're hungry, eat. If you're angry, if you ate, the anger level goes down. If you're lonely, talk to somebody. If you're tired, take a nap. And if you're lonely and you talk to somebody and you're tired and you took a nap, your anger level will diminish to such an incredible extreme. And now all of a sudden you feel good and you're feeling great. HALT, take care of that halt. And by doing that on a regular basis and being cognizant of my behavior, because I was so cognizant of my parents' behavior, that's why today, I work every day since my daughter was 6 to apologize, to make up for that 1 year of being this horrible dad where, I was neglecting her needs, where I was absolutely neglecting her needs. I work every day of my life to make it up to her. I apologize to my kids when I make a mistake, but apology is a 2-step process. It's not 1 step. If you say, I'm sorry, that's not, no. It's a 2-step process. The first one is you apologize. That's the verbal factor. I am sorry for what I did. The second one is, how can I make it up to you? How can I make it better? And I apologize to something I never heard from my parents. I apologize to my children every single time I do something wrong. It's kind of funny when when my daughter was younger, she's like, hey, Dad. I said, what? Say you're sorry. I was like, for what, honey? I said, I'm sorry, honey. I'm totally sorry. What did I do? She said, I forgot. I was like, okay, honey. Well, I'm sorry. Whatever I can do to make it better, please let me. She's like, okay, Dad. Did she leave? I was like, well, I think she's taking advantage of me here. It's like, make me apologize for something that that she doesn't remember what it was. But my son as well, Dad, say you're sorry. I was like, they look at me, get it. It's like, I was like, I'm sorry, honey. What did I do wrong? It's like, you made me mad. I was like, okay, I'm really sorry for making you mad. What can I do to make it better? Because I understand that he does things in his own way. His level of communication is, just because I gave him the emotions that he has and those emotions that he does not like. And by doing that and by apologizing and stepping up as a man and apologizing to my children, not just now that they're 16 and 18, but since forever, my children have a greater self-esteem, and my son understands, hey, it's okay for me to feel these feelings and express, what, you made me feel this way. That's the way that he communicates. What kind of adults do you think they're going to turn into? They're kind of, I'm thrilled for society, for the type of adults that my children will become. That's what we must do with our children. We must raise them up, regardless of, if we're raising them in a single parent household. I was lucky to have a wife who's amazing. The company's Dad's Publishing. It's only because my business partner has children and I have children. That's why it's called Dad's Publishing. Of course, we know that moms do everything. That's without question. But, divorce rates in the United States raised by 10% in couples that have a child with a disability. Having a child with a disability is either going to make the relationship stronger, or it's going to end it. It's going to go one extreme of it doesn't stay the same. And anytime there's an incredible change in life, like having a child with a disability, and everything becomes different. One of the things I highly recommend, or if there's any traumatic change, T as in Tom, traumatic change in your life, I highly recommend something that'll help you get through it. Something that I did that worked for me is that instead of fighting to make life the way it used to be, accept life for what it is and understand that it's something new, that it's going to be different. And by doing that, it makes it so much easier. The relationship my wife and I had became stronger, having our son with a disability. That's why we're still together. We've been together 29 years. I've been with her since I was 19. I'm 48 years old, 29 years, June 3rd, 92, 10:25 p.m. I remember the minute that I met her, but it was a Monday night. It made it stronger, this relationship, because of my past. And I was like, okay, I don't have to, every day that I wake up, I don't have to, wake up in fear, because I know what my day is today. And I have the gratitude for the things I have, because I knew what it was like having the other side of the coin. And then now, today I'm loved and accepted for who I am. The perfect mate, the perfect person to be with, maybe, the perfect wife, or if wife to wife, husband to husband, I don't care what the makeup is. The person to search for, and with 29 years of being with the same person, is not the individual. My wife sees my faults and loves me for them. And she's totally cool. She's like, yeah, I love you for the faults that you have. I obviously have I'm assuming I have good qualities. Otherwise we're going to get her, have to send her to therapy. It's like, why are you with this nut job? He's only got these crazy qualities. But it's an aspect of, seeing the individual that you're with, and seeing seeing the way that they seeing that they do things their own way, and accepting that, and they do the same with you. See that you do things your own way, that you do things a little bit different, and accepting that we're going to see the divorce rate drop. We're going to see relationships last forever. Even if you choose not to get married, we're going to see relationships last forever. Why am I going to end the relationship with you? Because you do things different? Gosh, I do things different. That's, if you want to look at, marriage counseling, his own way. Accept other individuals for doing things different, accepting and understanding that you're also different. Everybody's different, but what is the common thread that we share?
Yeah.
That's who the book is for. That's who the book is for. And the easiest way to be able to, to preach everything that I've been stating in 76 lines of text is by using my children, which is, I think, thanks for letting me use you as the example. But, with a child with autism, with severe disability, that, is just, doesn't eat regular food, who runs around the house, hops around the house. When he's angry, he pees in bed, on the bed. When he's happy, he pees on the bed. And if you notice, one of the things with the illustrations, which I made sure to, to be authentic, is that the boy's expression never changes.
Yeah.
The thing at the very end, he's got this, it's almost stone face. I forgot the term. His expression never changed. I could never tell if he was happy or sad. It was only at that very moment when the expression was the same, but you just see the tears at the end.
I noticed
because he didn't know how to communicate. He's doing the blocks, and everything must be symmetrical. And he sees, his sister grabbing one of the blocks, and all you see is just one tear. It's just like his face doesn't change. It's just, oh, she's touching one of my blocks. She's messing up the symmetry over here, and you have one tear over there. But I was very, very cognizant regarding being honest to autism. It's, but autism it's a beautiful thing. I've learned so many things from my son, besides not being able to go to Disneyland because of that front of the line pass. They need to change that. He is the sweetest, except, if I want to, drive him nuts, I'll have him stand in line. That's one of the things I know to drive him crazy. But beyond that, by the way, legally, I have to, drink the coffee mug that they gave me. It's the size of my head, but legally for every interview, I must have this coffee mug. But he is the sweetest, kindest, most loving child that doesn't have an angry bone in his body. He doesn't like the lines. Come to accept and understand that. But with the proper accommodations, the proper adjustments in our life to him, he's amazing. He's the sweetest. He's the most loving kid ever. And, at night when it's bedtime, I turn to him. Excuse me. I was assuming in the future I'd forget my name, so I named him after myself, just as the reminder there. So at night I say, Sergio, bedtime. He says, yes, Daddy. And then he immediately runs to bed. I was like, oh my God. If only both of my kids were autistic, I turn to my daughter, say, hey, honey, bedtime. She's like, okay. Half an hour later, hey, Stas, her name is Stasia, Stazia. Hey, Stasia, bedtime. It's like, yeah, okay. Probably she'll go to bed after another half an hour. It's like, okay, she's so much like me. It drives me nuts sometimes, and then she's, then I'll go to her bedroom. I was like, hey, you going to finish watching that YouTube at some point, or, whatever videos or texting, whatever you're doing? It's kind of bedtime, honey. And she's like, okay, Dad. 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, sure. 45 minutes later, I come back and she's still, it's like, my son's already, my son by this point has been snoring for 3 hours. And, and I'm still trying to work with my daughter, trying to convince her to go to sleep. So he's just amazing. He's so easy to deal with. No, it's not easy, not easy at all. But it's easier because we've come to understand what his needs are and what makes life easier for him. For him, one of the things that helps him is having a routine. So every day he has a routine. During this pandemic, I'm lucky enough to have a home with a yard, and and a jacuzzi. So every day he goes, works out, and then he has his breakfast, these specific things, and then that he likes, and then he goes to the jacuzzi, and then he does this. But every day it's the same routine, and it makes life so much easier. I'm not a religious person at all, but if miracles are those things that science cannot explain, there are miracles that I see in my life absolutely every single day. With my children, with my son, who's just this sweet, kind individual, who's amazing, a daughter who's, they're both doing so well during this pandemic with a Zoom school, because I make it easier for them, understanding that they move in their own way instead of the other way, which is my way. My daughter is so sweet and she's so protective of my son. Quick story. When I joined Disneyland, I sent my kids to daycare, and they were there. They're 18, about 18 months, and my daughter was 3. They're 18 months apart. And after 3 days, they got kicked out. I taught, at 3 years old, I taught my daughter how to throw a right hook. I don't punch. I'm not a violent. After what I dealt with as a child, I'm not a violent person. I'll talk to people. I just can't, because I know what that feels like. But with my daughter, I taught her a right hook, kind of exercise, do something with dad, taught her a right hook. And after 3 days of being inside the daycare, they got kicked out because there was this boy, my daughter's age, who was, I'm sorry, he was 2 and she 4, and they were 4 and 2. This boy, a 4-year-old, was picking on her brother. And, this 4-year-old boy was picking on her brother, and, she gave him a right hook. They got kicked out. And, the next day we joined Disneyland. We were members there for, 3-4 years, for 4 years. That's why we joined Disneyland. It's like, I was producing at that time. I was working as a producer, and I was like, well, you know what, I'll figure out, how to keep my job running, my work going, but, whenever I have free time, we're going to Disneyland, so it's no longer about the world championships. Now that you won the Super Bowl, where are you going to go? Or, now that you won, no, now that you're world champions, where are you going to go? Disneyland. Now that you knocked a kid on his butt for picking on your brother, where are we going to go? Disneyland. And that's why I joined. It's, I don't condone violence, but, she stood up for her brother, and she did something that she felt was, needed for him, because the other boy would, wouldn't stop messing with him. I was proud of her for standing up for him, and she's amazing. She stands up for him. She doesn't have to hit people anymore because she's tall. But I'm 6'5.5", so she's a tall girl, and she's been protective of him all her life, and he's protective of her. And the connection that they have with each other is not something that we could have acquired through therapy. If I sent them to family counseling, nothing would have taken place. Like all the therapies that we had for autism, none of them worked. As amazing as the people were that we sent them to, as qualified as the individuals were that we sent our son to, the results were nil. And until my daughter stepped in, and with my daughter allowing him to move in his own way, that's what took place. The books are, available on dadspublishing.com in English as ebooks, Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Google. But one of the things that I'm going to do, which is, you're the only one I'm telling. I'm only telling you, today on Autism Awareness Month, Mr. Patta, is that we're going to put the books out in Spanish.
I was going to say, it's going to be in Spanish too, right?
Yeah, without question. They're going to come out as ebooks in Spanish, and then when they come to hardcover, they'll come out as English and Spanish. With the Latin American countries, this machismo thing has got to step out the door. I'll be able to reach more with the Spanish language. So translating the books to Spanish is absolutely something we're going to be doing that in the next, within a month, we'll have a book out. Within a month, it'll be translated to Spanish. Printing takes a while. The printer, I've got a great printer. They take a month. So within 2 months, we'll have a book in the stores in Spanish, translated to Spanish within 2 months of today. I'm going to have to tell my business partner that, and I'm going to have to tell everybody that's on it. By the way, we have a 2-week deadline, because in 2 weeks it needs to go to the printer, and then we come back. We're going to have to promote it so that in 2 months from now, we're April 6th, April, May, by June. In June, we'll have it in Spanish. So that's my promise to you, and that's a first, because it's a necessity. And then switch it to other languages in the world in the future, but definitely hit Spanish as quickly as possible. So in 2 months, we'll have one of the books available in Spanish, and then coming out on a regular basis in Spanish.
Excellent.
So,
you know what, Sergio, I think that's actually excellent to hear. But I do enjoy this conversation. I've taken a lot of your time already, Sergio, and I love the fact that you are paying it forward, and you probably don't realize you are actually being the Ellen to many people who actually read the books. So that is terrific. In fact, once I get off, I'm going to tell a friend of mine who's an autistic teacher, and he has an autistic son. I just saw them yesterday, and so on. So I could totally see, when I read the book, I could totally see the whole situation. So yeah, Sergio, thank you for bringing this book to the world. You don't realize your personal experiences help translate, and you do actually become the Ellen to others.
That's the greatest compliment I've ever been paid, Mr. Patta. It's been such a pleasure being here with you, and and speaking to you, especially on a day like today, World Autism Day. Which is why we launched the book. We launched the book on March 22nd, my daughter's birthday. So for Autism Awareness Month. So it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for your time, for giving me time and space over here with you.
Hey, not a problem. Hopefully we get to do this again on your next book.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
Hey, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Lots of love to you and your listeners.
Hey, no, not a problem. Thank you. Next time.
Be safe.
Bye.